So I'd like to begin the day by inviting. If you invite the other, it doesn't really matter who comes up, because they both are part of the same heart.
This is about relationship.
Ladies and gentlemen, our nerd from Silicon Valley, well, not that nerd, he's the other nerd, Mr. Craig Elevitch.
And the crazy Kahu from Kalani, Kalani. It's true, I come from Silicon Valley, Palo Alto in the Bay Area, in fact. Kalani comes from Kenai, where he was raised by his grandfather. And he's always quoting these wise old sayings that we've come to know as Kalaniisms.
Kalaniisms.
Here's a Kalaniism. If it doesn't begin right, how will it end right? Kalani, would you mind starting us off with a prayer?
Eu pule kako iko mako e maku Kalani ina mahalo pia na koe mai kaunalio mai kaunalipo mai kahikina mai kaulana ye hele mai oi atue hele mai e ku ahina atangaroa atane hele mai e kanaha kalae e kanawai hele mai oi e amaku e olu oi no kokua ia na kikikane walo akane kai ka wahine e walo wahine e olu oi no kokua ia na kamali e ye atui. You know, as we all know, breadfruit originates in the Pacific Islands.
The varieties we enjoy today were selected by countless generations.
People upon whose shoulders we stand today.
The Breadfruit Institute, the Secretariat of the Pacific Community, and many other institutions are working diligently to conserve breadfruit diversity.
Equally, or probably even more importantly, traditional farmers are working to preserve the environmental conditions into which breadfruit can grow over a long period of time.
Generational time.
No. Ancestral time.
Breadfruit has gone through a progressive marginalization over the past 200 years as Western European agribusiness took hold.
But even today, many Pacific Islanders still consume breadfruit almost every day.
One Ryan told us that his family doesn't feel right going to bed at night without having had the taste of breadfruit that day. Here's a Kalaniism.
Food is sacred. It becomes you.
So it's not a mystery why the Hawaiians and other Pacific Islanders who voyaged throughout the Pacific for millennia took with them the food crops that they did not consider as crops to exploit, but close relatives, family.
This was, is, and always shall be about relationships.
Several years ago, when we started working with Doc Tusi,
with Diane Magoni,
Auntie Shirley,
with Chef Sam Choi,
and many others to revitalize breadfruit in Hawaii and the Pacific, we all saw this not as a new crop for exploitation, but as an opportunity to reconnect with the natural world, with countless benefits and synergies.
Now, this project carries with it the responsibility to reconnect with our roots, the ways of our ancestors. And in fact, the biggest responsibility is to connect in this deep way for the future generations, for all of life on Earth, actually.
And today we're at a crossroads in our relationship with food, with the environment, with culture, and with each other.
See, for countless generations, Pacific Islanders, their food was grown in a balanced ecosystem, using only the energy provided in real time by the sunlight and by the natural resources on hand.
The first foreign observers of the Hawaiian agricultural systems noted that they were some of the most abundant, productive agricultural systems they had ever experienced. Some of these systems still live on today in Samoa, in Fiji, in Yap.
Wait, quick, let's face it. They live on wherever agribusiness was held at bay. And I mean at bay. They kept them in the bay. They didn't let them off the ships. Anyway, so let's review the problems that we have to solve with industrial agriculture,
severe land and water ecosystem degradation,
high emissions of greenhouse gases,
risks of environmental and economic disasters,
toxic pollution,
decimation of biodiversity,
in my case, nutrition-related human health conditions,
and disempowerment of farmers and communities. One of the first British botanists who came to Kona on Hawaii Island remarked,
well, I say, the only thing wanting is to render the natives useful to themselves and all of mankind by putting them to work on plantations.
and thus began the plantation era in Hawaii. Dominated by sugar for over 150 years, plantation agriculture in Hawaii took its toll on land, ocean, and people.
Rivaled only by the livestock industry, whose ungulates continue to degrade the environment today.
As of this year, plantation sugar in Hawaii has officially gone bust, leaving many scrambling for a new plantation crop.
This scenario has repeated itself over and over throughout the Pacific in various degrees. In fact, in the Caribbean, the truth is, they've repeated this all over the world.
In fact, all things Hawaiian have been used to generate revenue streams over the past 230 years,
All things Hawaiian have been used to market products.
with devastating effects on the environment,
Yeah, on the biodiversity,
endemic species,
on the human health condition.
and culture.
The dominant narrative has stormed the beach.
Established a base
They took the high ground.
long before 1945.
Post-World War II has seen the blossoming of a corporate industrial machine.
With the rights of a natural citizen.
Away.
On a global scale, industrial agriculture has left a destructive legacy for our children. 1 billion hectares of forested land have been cleared worldwide over the past 200 years, decimating biodiversity and healthy functioning ecosystems.
You can see right here in Hawaii that taking the capacity out of the watershed impacts the nearshore environment directly, and it keeps us from recharging the fresh groundwater for the next generation.
Large-scale monocultures tend to foster new and more virulent pests and diseases that make it more costly, in some cases prohibitively costly, to continue growing a crop.
You know, we're trying to learn something from the Irish potato famine.
The taro leaf blight,
You know, from the papaya ring spot virus.
the Cavendish banana.
And within the last 20 years, from the kava shot hole.
Does anyone in this room seriously think that breadfruit is immune to the intensification of pests and diseases that other crops have experienced in monoculture? Another global consequence of our food system is one that world leaders consider to be the greatest threat is climate change.
1/3 of all greenhouse emissions come from our food systems.
Consider climate models that predict that weather extremes will decrease our capacity to grow food.
Then you can easily see the food systems we're engaged in presently are on a downward spiral.
We are acutely aware that many would see breadfruit as another commodity to generate financial profit, but not for the profit of the environment and future generations.
When one looks at the legacy of the plantation era in Hawaii,
An era that is now ending,
one can see that it is a huge responsibility to work with breadfruit as a commercial crop for the first time in history.
how can we proceed in a new way, a right way? Here's a Kalaniism.
You know, smart people, they learn from their mistakes. But wise people, they learn from other people's mistakes.
We can begin by drawing upon the age-old models of breadfruit agroforestry.
This means redefining the concept of profit.
Profit is not just for the large commercial stakeholders,
It's for the small producers,
landowners.
communities,
We also calculate into profit environmental health,
the health of soils and the ocean.
atmosphere, and biodiversity.
Impossible,
Unrealistic?
crazy, foolish.
Impractical, you say?
Yes,
Absolutely.
and all those things.
And yet, we have living models for this in the Pacific.
Yeah, ones that have existed in the Pacific for thousands of years.
And so, the glimmer of hope we have, it comes from this age-old relationship.
The relationship that Pacific Islanders have to the natural world.
And this is one that we all share. Look to your ancestors with deep respect and honor all life.
It is balance and synergy. And through deep respect,
This creates true abundance in the world.
instead of reacting to emergencies in agriculture, we're going to be proactive in the way we design, in the way we implement these new food systems.
For example, we will grow our food in naturally balanced synergistic systems.
And these are resistant to pest and disease outbreaks. We can do that rather than blaming the pathogens that we foster.
Indigenous peoples, those who still live with their connection to the natural world,
Those who still have an internal operating system,
values,
they have stories,
beliefs,
they have thought forms,
a moral compass that guides the way we make fundamental decisions.
the way we interact with nature.
In today's conditions, some suggest that breadfruit is the solution,
Let me tell you something. Breadfruit is not a magic bullet.
but it is on target as a nutritious, gluten-free staple food.
Breadfruit is not a panacea.
But it provides multiple products in multiple markets,
Breadfruit is not the standalone answer.
not the next plantation crop,
No, but breadfruit is the spine.
the backbone,
Breadfruit is the
the
ancestor,
grandfather tree,
the great shade.
under which rests all potential
Yes, the great biodiverse web of life.
that feeds us all interrelated,
All of it in relationship
with respect,
with humility.
with aloha. In order for this to work for everyone in a new way, we're going to have to be smarter and more resourceful than we ever have been.
We're going to have to think deeper, broader, from a larger frame of reference than ever before.
We are creating synergistic agriculture with higher total yield and greater profits over the long term.
Not only that, but we're working on creating a system that corrects and eliminates a lot of the problems in the original agribusiness model.
And generates market opportunities that benefit small farmers and communities.
Probably most important, that protects the cultural legacy of breadfruit.
Oh, and one more Kalaniism.
Wisdom is a thing that can be learned, but it cannot be taught.
So there you have it, the integrated perspective of a nerd from Silicon Valley.
And this crazy kahu from Kauai.
As we move forward with our work, let's do this as family,
As family,
in relationship.